When we think of pilgrims, we think of Thanksgiving and festivities and food in abundance. But we don't necessarily appreciate the high price these men and women who helped found our country had to pay so they could worship the Lord in freedom of conscience. Their story continues to inspire 400 years later.
The group we know today as the Pilgrims was a particular congregation of separatists that met in mid-England, called the East Midlands, in the sleepy village of Scrooby, which is in Nottinghamshire. Scrooby is about 150 miles north of London. These pilgrims began meeting around 1606 in the manor house owned by one of their leaders, Elder William Brewster. William Wrestling Brewster of Plymouth, Massachusetts, is the great-grandson by 9 generations of Elder William Brewster.
William Brewster was the elder of the church. He was one of the founders of the church.
William Brewster was a remarkable man. He really had a great setup in the East Midlands because he had inherited an important post and for the government, and he could have stayed there and enjoyed that, but instead he took his home and turned it into a house church. And he put his heart with the separatists, and he became an elder and a leader. And when it was time to go to America, it was William Brewster who would be the key leader in getting them from Holland back to England and over to America.
They began their congregation with a concept they found in the Bible, the covenant.
A covenant is a formalized, usually religious agreement between parties. It's a promise. That's another word, a way of putting it. God is the witness, and often it is with God. The United States can be said to be the first and, to a large extent, most Judeo-Christian country in the history of the world. The Pilgrims founded America for all intents and purposes.
Their chief pastor was John Robinson, who was a graduate of Cambridge University and a great biblical scholar. The Pilgrims' services were secret and were illegal. Their children helped them by watching to make sure no authorities were coming to arrest them.
Open up in the name of the king! Open up, you heretic!
They had to do it in secret. They couldn't really publish when they were going to meet. And the teenagers, like William Bradford at the time, were part of the youth group, which were called spies. And they would be outside listening to what people were saying. So if they heard anybody say, hey, they're going to meet here tonight, they would possibly change the time or even the day.
The King of England is the supreme authority in matters of religion as well as matters of state.
They paid a high price for practicing their faith according to their conscience. Pilgrim leader William Bradford would later write about the whole Pilgrim story in his book of Plymouth Plantation.
It is well known unto the godly, how ever since the first breaking of the light of the gospel in our honourable nation of England, Satan hath raised, maintained, and continued wars and oppositions against the saints. William Bradford, the opening lines of Plymouth Plantation.
Well, Bradford, who came into the separatist movement as a teenager, was there for all the big events. He was there in England, he fled England, he went to Holland, from Holland he came to America. In America, eventually he became the governor, he became the preeminent leader of the Pilgrims at Plymouth Colony, and he also became the great chronicler, the one who really recorded their life and what their hearts and beliefs were.
The Pilgrims paid a high price in their native England for living out their biblically oriented beliefs. It was this incredible persecution that caused them ultimately to migrate to America by way of Holland for a dozen years. The legacy of the Pilgrims and their desire to serve their God in the purity of their conscience endures to this day. Despite the intense secularism of today, the Constitution still guarantees that in America we can enjoy the free exercise of religion. For Providence Forum, I'm Jerry Newcombe.